Can you believe we're on our fourth lesson of Moses this week? Here's a little recap of what we've covered so far from those talented artists at Saddleback Kids. Enjoy it.
Stories of the Bible. Moses and the Exodus. This is Moses, who was an Israelite born in Egypt in a time when Israelite boys were not supposed to live.
Wait, huh?
Moses, however, grew up in the palace of the Pharaoh, the very man who was enslaving the Israelite people. When Moses grew up, he made a big mistake.
Uh-oh.
So Moses ran away from Egypt to the land of Midian. After many years, an angel of the Lord appeared to Moses and told him to go back to Egypt to free the Israelites. After much protesting, God granted Moses his brother Aaron to speak on his behalf. So Moses went to Egypt. And on his way there, he met Aaron, who was ready to do whatever God wanted him to do. The Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians, but God had a special plan for Moses.
Hey, everyone, huh?
After rallying God's people to them, Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh. And said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, has said. Let my people go." And Pharaoh made the Israelites work harder because of this.
Huh?
The foremen of the Israelite slaves were angry with Moses and Aaron for causing this trouble. So Moses cried out to God and asked why this was happening. But God said, "You will see what I will do. I am the Lord. I will deliver you from slavery."
Wow, okay. Hey!
Moses told this to the people,
Hey!
but they were so discouraged that they didn't listen to him. God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and to do exactly as he said. So Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh.
Hey!
God told them to take the staff and throw it down before Pharaoh.
Huh?
Pharaoh was not impressed. He called his wise men and sorcerers, and they did the same thing.
Hooga.
But Aaron's staff swallowed up the sorcerer's staff. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them.
Shoot.
Just as God had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the banks of the Nile River and meet Pharaoh."
Hey, Pharaoh!
Moses and Aaron did just as God had said. But again, Pharaoh's magicians did the same miracle, and Pharaoh refused to let God's people go. So God sent 9 more plagues to Egypt to show his power. Even with all the suffering, Pharaoh's heart stayed hard, and he would not let the people go. On the night of the last plague, Pharaoh woke up and heard a great cry in Egypt. For there was not a house in Egypt where someone was not dead. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and told him to be gone with the Israelites. So the Israelites left Egypt immediately and made their way to the Promised Land, taking with them many riches from Egypt, and they took Joseph's bones as they had promised him many years before.
So the Hebrew people are heading out of Egypt. You can see on this map here, Egypt is in the upper left. And follow that little red line from the land of Goshen. They go up to the, what is that, Sea of Reeds? Well, most scholars place the crossing at the Sea of Reeds, just east of Succoth, and not across the southern Red Sea. Red and reeds are the same word in Hebrew. But what's important is not the location, but the problem and God's dependable response. We're going to break down this lesson of Moses into 3 stories. Our first one is very dramatic. I hope you enjoy it. Our Red Sea crossing story comes this week from the Children's Illustrated Bible. Story 1. Stuck between a rock and a wet place. God led his people out of Egypt and through the wilderness at the edges of the Red Sea. God led them by day as a column of cloud, and by night as a column of fire, so they should know which way to go. But Pharaoh again hardened his heart, angry that he had let his slaves leave. He gave orders to the officers of his army to make ready, and he himself led a force of 600 chariots, as well as horsemen and foot soldiers, against the Israelites. The Israelites were camped on the shore when they saw the Egyptian army approaching. They turned in terror to Moses. "Why did you take us from our comfortable captivity only to let us die here in the wilderness?" "Do not be afraid," Moses reassured them. "The Lord will protect you from harm." As he spoke, the column of cloud moved over the Egyptians so that they were in darkness. Then, following the word of the Lord, Moses stretched his hand over the sea. Immediately, a strong wind sprang up, and the waters parted, and a passage of dry land appeared along the seabed. Moses led his people along this path, the waters like a high wall on either side of them. As soon as Pharaoh saw what was happening, he and his army came galloping in pursuit. But as his horsemen and his hundreds of chariots thundered over the dry sand, the Lord commanded Moses again to stretch out his hand. The waters of the Red Sea closed over the Egyptians, and every man was drowned. We interrupt this reading to bring you a low-quality screen grab of a rather poorly animated movie created over a decade ago. It's called The 10 Commandments, and it was produced by Promenade Pictures in association with 10 Chimneys Entertainment.
Pharaoh, have your men go around the fire. provoke me, you will die at my hands.
The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. See how the Lord protects you.
Shall we go?
Yes, sister.
Come, children! Hurry! Hurry!
Don't forget the wagon.
She wanted to see the fish.
Pharaoh's army! They're coming! They're coming!
I told you they'd kill us. Didn't I tell you? They'll kill us all thanks to you. Do not be afraid. Behold the salvation of the Lord.
But the children of Israel reached the far side of the sea in safety, and when they saw how God had protected them, they gave grateful thanks to God and to the prophet Moses. They sang a song of praise, recalling the happy escape of the children of Israel from their long years of slavery and their crossing of the Red Sea. Then Miriam, Aaron's sister, took up her tambourine and, calling the women to follow her, led them in a dance along the water's edge. Since our first story ended with singing, let's enjoy this song that I found on the internet. You might want to stand up and move around a little bit.
Yeah, 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 I said, Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh, Pharaoh.
Well, that song's gonna be stuck in my head all day. It's time now for story number 2. And while you watch it, I think I'm gonna go get a snack. Story number 2. You're not you when you're hungry. All the excitement of escaping from Egypt was over. The Israelites had seen the last of their slave drivers. Now, they had to get used to a different way of life. Slowly, they began to make their way to Canaan, the land that God had promised them. But it was not long before they began to hate the hardship of the desert journey. They soon forgot the toil and the beatings they had suffered in Egypt and came grumbling to Moses. "Why did you bring us here?" they complained. "In Egypt we had all the food we wanted. Now we're starving. It's your fault." Moses did not know how to answer them, but God said to him, "I will give the people food." And he told Moses how it would happen. Moses and Aaron went back to the people with God's message. "When you grumbled at me," Moses said, "you were really grumbling at God. He is the one who brought you out of Egypt, and He is the one who will give you food. Tonight and tomorrow morning, you will find out how He is going to do that." That very night, huge flocks of quail flew low over the goatskin tents. Some, tired out by their long flight, rested on the ground, where they were quickly caught and turned into a tasty supper. Next morning, something even more amazing happened. The Israelites looked out of their tents and saw, as the dew melted, something white and flaky left all over the ground. They tasted it, and it was sweet, like honey biscuits. They did not know what it was, so they called it manna, which means, "What is it?" Every day, except on the Sabbath, it was there waiting for them to collect. They could eat it raw or use it cooked. God told them to collect just enough for each day's meals, except on the 6th day, when they were to collect enough to last for 2 days. This meant that no one need work on God's special day, the Sabbath. The story goes that some of the Hebrew people didn't listen and were a little bit greedy. They collected more manna in their baskets than they needed. Well, when they looked in their baskets the following day, their manna was filled with worms. Ugh. Ugh. Suddenly I'm not very hungry anymore. Here is our 3rd story. Thanks for sticking with me through these. I hope you enjoy it. Story number 3. Somebody poisoned the water hole. Water, water. That was all anyone could think about. It's bad to be hungry when you're tramping, hot and tired, through dry, parched country. But it's far worse to be thirsty. For 3 days the people of Israel had trudged on without finding fresh water. So they were overjoyed at last to catch sight of a quiet pool. Those in front rushed to get a drink, but at once the eagerness on their faces changed to expressions of sour disgust. The water tasted horrible. "Do something, Moses," they begged. Moses asked God to help. God showed him a piece of wood lying nearby, and Moses threw it into the water. The bitter taste vanished, and they were all able to drink. Here on this map, you can see the spot known as Marah, where the Hebrew people encountered the bitter waters. The Israelites were thankful to camp soon after at Elim. Elim was a lovely green oasis where palm trees shaded 12 clear, sparkling springs, and everyone could quench his thirst. But all too soon, it was time to take down their tents and be on their way. At their next camping place, there was no water at all. An angry crowd came to find Moses. "Give us water," they threatened. "Why did you bring us here to die of thirst?" Moses was worried and a little afraid. The people were angry, and some of them even picked up large stones ready to throw at him. "What can I do with these people?" Moses asked God. "Take your stick," God said, "and go with the leaders of the people to a rock that I will show you. Hit that rock with your stick." Moses did just as God said. When he struck the rock with his stick, fresh, clear water spurted out, gushing freely, for all to drink and quench their thirst. So that ends our third story. And if there's one lesson I'd like for you to take away today, it's this. The journey of life, of faith, is in fact sometimes hard and scary. We do have doubts and fears, and God hears and responds. God cares, gives, and comforts. God saves because of who God is, and not because we are great followers. Do not be afraid. Do not doubt. Do not fear. See how the Lord is with you. Well, that wraps up our lesson on Moses, broken down into 3 stories. I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks for sticking with me. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.